murderer, butcher, madman. Those are all titles you had given me. You swore you would never name your child after me. You tell yourselves you would have never done the same thing that I did in my position. You sit there in your smugness. You know very little about me. But tonight I'm here to tell you there's much more to it than that. I was surrounded by, there was people that said that Herod deserved the name Herod the Great. I surrounded myself with friends such as Augustus Caesar, Anthony, and even Cleopatra came to my palace in Jerusalem. Yes, I was also appointed king of Judea before the age of 30 by the Roman Senate, a position I would hold for over 40 years. Yes, I was a great king. I was also a good king. Obviously, I was not born a Jew, but yet I understood the Jewish ways. I understood how they thought, and I gave them exactly what they wanted. I have to admit, when I married Miriam, the Jewish heirs, that was neither out of a purpose or content. But I loved that woman like no man could. I would give her anything at all. I knew she felt the same about me. That's more than I could say about her family. From the very beginning, they never even gave a hint of giving respect to who I am. No attempt of even respecting the authority of a king. Low-life foreigner. You're just a low-life foreigner. That's what they called me, low-life foreigner. Oh, I hated that. I will never accept that. Never accept that type of arrogance. No one will hold Herod in contempt. And they will learn. Now, in spite of Miriam's family, there were those who said that my reign was the best that Judea had ever had. Why shouldn't they? I remember the time when I ordered all the gold and silver to be stripped from the palace and to be sold so that those could eat during famine. During better times, the building projects we undertook were marvels. Even today, even your expeditions testify to that. The building of the Hippodrome, the amphitheater, and even the harbor of Ceres, named after Caesar. But none of those marvels were my greatest accomplishments. My greatest accomplishment was for the Jewish people to rebuild the Temple of Solomon. But not just rebuild, but rebuild it on a scale far greater than Solomon. There were those who said that I was another Solomon. Some even said that I was greater than Solomon. Yes, I understood the Jewish mind. But yet, why could they not be content with just letting me live? Why did they constantly have to push and test my authority? I never would understand. In an attempt to appease my wife, Miriam, and her family, I appointed her brother to be a high priest. That lasted until he thought his authority was greater than mine. Until he started to take over responsibilities that were supposed to be mine. And people started going to him rather than me. Of course, there was no recourse for that kind of contempt. There would be ruthless severity that it demanded. I gave the order that he would be executed. Miriam never did quite understand my reasoning. Neither did her family. They should have. They should have known that no one treats Herod that way. There's only one king, and that is Herod. Only one. In spite of my arguments, the nights with Miriam just grew longer and longer. Oh, those icy, cold stares. What was I to do? What was I supposed to do? How could any man have his wife treat him in that kind of respect and hold him in contempt with that knowledge? I would not stand for it. I would not stand for it all. What would you have done? Would you have done anything differently? No, I could not tolerate it any longer. And I had to put the order in for her also to die. No, she would not treat me that way. No one ever treats Herod that way and gets away with it. I tried to tell myself that anybody else would have done the same thing. I didn't have much luck. The nights, the days grew longer and longer. And Howie would have given anything to have her back. Anything. But then I began to realize things were starting to change around me. I noticed it in the faces of the servants and the soldiers around me. The look of fear. The fear that they may be next. I decided if that is the kind of king that they wanted, and that's the kind of king that they saw, that was the kind of king I'll become. And I did. They will learn. Even my family will learn. I knew my two sons would not be content in waiting to inherit the throne. I knew that someday they would try to take it from me. Sure enough, one day I learned of their plot, and I gave the order that they would die too. When will these people understand that I, Herod, hold the power in my hand of life and death? I, Herod, decides who lives and who dies. Every breath, every heartbeat is mine to take or to give. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised at my surprise when the three astrologists from the east showed up in Jerusalem. And they came to my palace to inquire where the king was to be born. The King of the Jews. We saw a star in the sky, and we came to pay him homage. Can you imagine them asking me that kind of question? They had no idea how close the end of their life was about to become at that moment. But yet, what if there was some truth to that? What if there is someone, a contender, after my throne, somewhere in the land? If so, I wanted to know. And so I sent them on their way. I said, go find this King of the Jews. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I, Herod, can also give you my homage. My homage would be the razor edge of my sword. No one threatens Herod I suppose I should have been surprised when they did not come back. My reputation had spread far beyond the confines of Judea. So when they did not return, I was not surprised. I was furious. I immediately ordered a detail of soldiers to go to Bethlehem and to seek out every child aged 2 years or younger, and they were to take their life. I'm sure you know the rest of the story. Soon the soldiers came back, and the ones that they saw had already left. He would live in Egypt until I died. Tyrant? Madman? Perhaps. But yet the only realist in your Christian drama. The only one that would recognize the threat of that child in Bethlehem. Only I. Not Caesar on his throne, or the merchants in the streets, or the thieves in the hills, nor the priests in their temples. No one would know, had they stepped foot in the stable, the threat of that newborn in humble beginnings, except for I, Herod. I knew he would grow up to be a man someday, yet what kind of man he would become, I would not know. I died soon after that. Today you call it cancer. But the disease was not nearly as horrible as the loneliness that I had. My servants and my soldiers would not spend any time in my presence. They would accomplish their duties and they would rush off. And again, I was lonely. Oh, so lonely. It was then that I began to realize that no one was going to know of Herod's death. No one was going to mourn in Jerusalem. There would be no crying over my death. And I would not have that. I would see to that. There would be mourning in Jerusalem. There would be wailing in the streets. Yes, I will make sure that happens. And so my soldiers went out and rounded up all the Jewish men and placed them in the hippodrome. My order was upon the moment of my death, they too would die. Then there would be wailing in the streets. There'd be mourning in Jerusalem like never heard before. The crying, the weeping would be heard clear to Rome. And yes, everyone would know that Herod had died. Yes. Villain, I suppose. But yet the only realist in your Christian drama. Little did I or anyone else know or understand the reason why we should remember Herod's name, or anyone else's for that matter, was because of him. Little did any of us realize that 2,000 years later, you'd be sitting here tonight because of him. I suppose, if anything tonight, I leave you with my testimony. Testimony of all that should be remembered, and all that shall be forgotten.